Right, so you know Behringer released their MS-1 synth and it was supposed to be a clone of the Roland SH-101. Well, there were a couple of things that they didn't quite get right. But now there's an updated version of the MS-1 and it's called the MS-1 Mark II. You can tell a unit is the Mark II because it has 3 settings on the glide control: off, auto and on, whereas the Mark I just had off and on. Also, there's a little Mark II next to the name on the front panel. Like me, you were probably thinking that this Mark II would fix things that they got wrong when they first released the MS-1, and you'd be able to buy an accurate SH-101 clone for cheap. Sadly, it's pretty crap. These are a few of the things wrong with it. First of all, the portamento or glide, as it's called on the MS-1, is nothing like the SH-101. If I play an arpeggio, I should be able to turn glide on and have the notes sliding up and down to one another, but this doesn't work at all. See? Nothing. It's the same deal if I run a sequence. Nothing. But that's nothing compared to this. If you do a portamento slide, just before it reaches the final note, it suddenly jumps. So it's on a smooth movement up or down to the note. It just goes bonk, and then it's suddenly on the note. Listen. When a portamento slide is in flight, if you turn down the glide knob down to 0, it's supposed to speed up the rate at which the notes are sliding to one another. Of course, this doesn't work on the MS-1 Mark II. Yet another issue with the portamento. If the glide knob is turned up from 0, it doesn't gradually increase the portamento duration. It suddenly jumps from nothing to quite a long portamento time. This was one of the criticisms of the Mark I, and it's really disappointing that this hasn't been fixed. Something weird is happening with the pitch tracking of the filter. If the filter is set to perfectly match the pitch of the oscillator, when the oscillator is removed from the audio mix to the filter, the cutoff frequency of the filter changes. That shouldn't happen. On the SH-101, it was possible to repeatedly trigger the envelope from the LFO and have the random modulation generator in perfect sync to each note trigger. Adding random modulation to the filter created a really cool effect. The MS-1 doesn't do this properly. It creates 2 control voltages per LFO cycle, so it just sounds like rubbish. External clock synchronization is poorly implemented all round. The onboard sequencer is supposed to be able to sync to it. But regardless of what setting is configured in the Behringer Synth Tribe application, it didn't work for me at all, even though the clock trigger in the envelope did. These double random controlled voltages aren't even of equal duration, resulting in a galloping type of sound. Speaking of this LFO envelope triggering, changing the waveform knob whilst holding down a note results in some weird timing errors. The transpose switch at the side of the keyboard doesn't work like the SH-101. Whilst holding down a key, moving the transpose switch should make the note jump up or down an octave immediately without needing to strike the key again. The MS-1 doesn't do this. How truly sad. This very much upsets me. On a positive note, the filter sounds exactly like an SH-101 filter, and I'm pretty sure the envelope looks more like the typical exponential curve of the SH-101. I don't know for sure though, I don't have an SH-101 to compare it to. What I do have though is this awesome AM Synths SN101 Eurorack filter, which of course is the filter from the SH101. I have these lovely snappy Derpfer envelopes and this delectable Oakley Classic VCA. I've got this tremendous Studio Electronics oscillator whose waveforms sound identical to the Curtis 3340 oscillator used in the original SH101. And here's the stg.com module that reproduces the sub-oscillator circuit from the SH101. So, this Behringer MS-1 is going back in its box, then back to the shop from whence it came, as I think it's not a clone of the SH101, but is instead a crummy plastic Fisher-Price toy made to resemble one.